Okay. The press and the Down Beach Current were notified of this meeting. A copy of same was posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building. Would you please turn off all electronic equipment, stand for the flag salute. Attention, salute. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you call the roll, please, Tom?
Okay. Mr. Becker?
Here.
Mr. Blumberg? Ms. Taube?
Here.
First item for discussion. I ask Deputy Clerk Freed to put this on the agenda. It's kind of pertinent. Leave it there.
Why? Why, because the mayor said so? You can't, Mayor, you can't see anybody.
Will you sit down, please?
You can't see
Thank you. That's good for our sake. It's appropriate that we begin talking about repurposing city facilities today in this building. This is the first meeting that we've had since we transferred title. Would like to open that discussion amongst us here, and you people in the public obviously will be able to comment later. This is not by any means a final status, but we would like to have your input. We would like to know what you people think, and I would like to know what everybody here thinks. So if anybody would care to comment on Union Avenue School, City Hall, any other public facilities?
Sewell, 22 West
Not
Drive?
now, John. During the
When,
during the
Mayor? If
public-
not now, when?
Whenever, John. When
When?
you finish revising fiscal history, you'll have a public comment, you'll be able to do that.
I thought you were asking for early public
No, I
comment.
was not, John, if you weren't listening.
Weren't listening closely enough.
Maybe you were
Many
not.
a slip betwixt the cup and the lip.
Thank you, John. Anyone at the head table care to give any opinions of what we should do with our city facilities? Yes,
Talking this table, or?
at this table, head table. Correct.
I believe that Ed Wahlberg has some good suggestions. I know Frank did. A lot of us are interested. There's little things that have to be done, like books and records still at City Hall that need to get over here. There's going to be a short-term plan, long-term plan, but it's all tied into what the final decision that you three end up making on facilities. So I know that Ed and Frank have some ideas, and if we could figure a way for Ed and Frank to get moving on that and come back
Well,
to you, or our input, your input, or
Well-
whatever.
We had a meeting a couple of weeks ago. We had an engineer.
Hit the thing there, the red.
As Commissioner of Public Works, we had an engineering and public buildings. We had a meeting 2 weeks ago that we spoke a lot about what do we do with our facilities. And I think we should, I think it's a good idea to request, public input, but our team is working on it, behind the scenes too. I think I can speak for everybody and say that we're all pretty comfortable here. It's nice to have the one-stop shopping for our residents. So I think in the short term, with the departments that we have here, I think we're all happy here.
Agreed. There's no question. I agree with that. Amari, are you okay with that?
Absolutely.
Okay. The other city properties also we have to decide, what to do with them. So this is open for that. If anybody, public up here, would listen to you people as, do you have something to say on this, Tony?
Yes, I do. I have something to say also, based on just moving, during the move and, kind of now understanding what we have here in this building. I do see great potential for a lot of things, be it on the first or second floor here, as it relates to record storage and a whole command center, basically, for lack of a better term, and an Office of Emergency Management in this building. I've already taken some steps to map out the second floor, certain parts of the second floor that would really add some stability during the emergency times where we're not sure where we could meet, or if something was going to change where a building would not be used anymore. So I have begun that process of
Fred,
trying
if
to
you
take
could
a
share
look.
that with us, I just, we only have so much space up there, and we've talked amongst ourselves about some other ideas upstairs, so maybe our next meeting, we can bring you in, because some of the ideas we were throwing around is possibly bringing the Historical Society here. One of their complaints was visitorship. So if we have our residents coming to here, the municipal complex, Union Avenue School, they might be able to visit upstairs while they're here, paying taxes, water bill, visiting the Public Works Department, Building Department, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about all of that. I did think in terms of City Hall, and when we decide to renovate that, my idea was maybe to keep the court available in that area there for our meetings, and then maybe use that first floor area for maybe the Historical Society. I don't know, but I do know that sooner than later, we're going to have to do something about the generator needs here in this building. After yesterday's event, I don't know how quickly we can get moving on that, but we definitely need to address that. I spend a lot of time trying to keep the facilities operational here, and it bothered me a great deal that this building was completely in the dark as far as technology was concerned. I'm not big on being out for that period of time, but I did look at what we would need in terms of keeping electricity or generator operational here to keep everything running. It was this building lost power and consequently knocked out the firehouse, which is on Ventnor and Washington Avenue. So, there's a lot of things that need to be addressed when it comes to that. And I will be prepared to sit down and put something in detail on my ideas that I've already, that I've been looking at since I'm through this building most of the time, all day long.
Can you put it in writing for us? That would be helpful.
Yeah, I'm gonna have everything in writing. And I'll be ready for whenever your meeting is. But I
And this
did
is
spend some
exactly
time.
why we should have these conversations, so that we're all on the same boat.
Yeah,
And we're not,
but-
one side's not pulling. Tony, do you want to say something? Thank you, Fred.
My comments were actually related to the old City Hall, or, the City Hall that's not in use, and our fire department there. I've spoken to a few people at this table about acquiring more space for us on the second floor, and also a small place on the first floor for storage and a workout area for our personnel. And Rich and I have spoken. I've spoke to Tom a little bit about it, and they like the ideas, and that's something that is pretty much essential to our operation. That would really help us out. It would also help us out downstairs because we'd have a little more space for vehicle storage.
And Chief, that's been shared with us through Ed, so that's been communicated and
Through
through Ed Wahlberg.
Ed, did you have anything new?
Yeah, I have a lot of opinions. I think this building works very well right now and can continue to work well. There are some issues that we need to deal with if we're staying here permanently. We need to deal with the items that I had outlined a year or two ago, the boiler, control valves, the control system. We need to bring the mechanical systems up to speed. Right now, we're getting through, it's operating, but I know Ron is having it's tough trying to keep things going along with Curtis. The Historical Society, the old City Hall would be wonderful because of the age of the building and all. The only thing I'm concerned about is if we were to put it on the first floor and we had another flood, there's irreplaceable items that would go. So I'm kind of leaning towards the second floor of this building, maybe the old library or something just pops into my head. And if we were to go, when we renovate that building, the old City Hall, we'll probably consume almost the whole first floor with the proper amount of space for, the judges' chambers, an interview room, handicap accessible bathrooms, and a caucus room. Because I'm personally, again, this is my personal opinion, that we should have our meetings in that chamber. It plays better. It's more formal. Courts should be kept in that chamber. But then again, that's my personal opinion. And we would need a caucus room there also. So there's not as much room as we really think there is on that first floor once you get involved. And then the question of the elevator comes into play. And I'm meeting with the FEMA people on Monday relative to that building as far as the elevator and what, retrofitting mitigation measures. But like I said, one of the big things that we have to do to this building to make it, just to bring it up to standard, is we need to deal with the mechanical systems. The electrical systems are fine. Any enhancements to the telecommunication system that Fred would need could be done at that time, but we have a number of steam valves that need to be replaced to be able to get adequate control of all the temperature control of all the classrooms, the now office space. And the boilers are they're 30-some years old. They can be you can replace them with a much more efficient units and eliminate the need for the black seal. So that's, I'm looking at it from a technical standpoint.
I'd like to just make a comment on the Historical Society. To me, and this is just my own personal opinion today, it almost makes sense to me to have it here in an open building where people from the public can come and visit, rather than, as it was before, open only certain very small hours. And so I just throw that out there. That's the way I feel right now. And Frank, did you have some comment on this? Or you want to hold it for department heads, whatever you want to do?
Well, I think it's a good idea for the Historical Society because, of course, we're open all the time. We're comfortable here, and I think the building has a lot of potential. I think we can make available space, and I think, City Hall over on Washington Avenue has to be rethought. And I think between all of us, we could come up with some good ideas.
Agreed, I agree. Anybody else?
I just have one more thing, Mayor. I did a real quick down and dirty sketch to see how many parking spots we could fit while maintaining all the recreation facilities that are out in the playground. I was able to get 28 spaces without a problem. We would have to add a second gate. Maybe it might go down to 27 because of the handicap accessibility. You have to have a van accessibility, but this was just a quick layout I did last night by the light of the fire, and I think that's an adequate. 28 spaces is pretty good.
Tony, did you want to say something else?
Yes, I did. In the light of what Fred was saying about this facility going down yesterday with the power outage, we have had some serious issues at Station 2 with the generator there and the generator hookup. In yesterday's storm, when the power outage occurred, we lost power there. The trailer which houses the officer and his office was totally dead. We did get electric back through the generator in the main building, but the heat doesn't work on it. So through Frank, first thing this morning, I had Ron Day evaluate the system, and he has given me a written report on what needs to be done, and also an approximate budget price on getting it done, so that the generator would generate power to all necessary areas and equipment in that building. But it is something that needs immediate addressing.
Thank you.
Relative to the generator for this structure, we do have a hazard mitigation grant app in for a generator. I don't know how that's going to rank, but it is a critical facility. We put that this would be our emergency management center, so we are looking for funding, but you're looking at conservatively $500,000 to do a generator for big enough to power everything. So that's, hopefully we'll get some money
To power everything in this building?
to power the whole building,
Okay.
essentially. Right now, there's a plug, but all it will power is this room, if you put with a portable generator, and maybe the boiler, and a little bit of the old telecommunication room. But that's all it'll power. For the price differential, it's definitely money well spent to do. You just bring it in and power the entire system, because this will become our emergency management operations center as well as a shelter during a storm. So
Thank you.
I'll stop talking.
Anybody else about repurposing? If not, we'll go to department heads.
Mayor, can I just say
Yes.
something?
Certainly.
When they're talking about, renovating City Hall, you got to remember, things that we didn't have before that we were grandfathered in, we're talking about, like Ed and I have talked, and Rich, the dais is going to have to be handicap accessible for a judge. Security, we're going to need a metal detector. So when we talk about moving other things in there, we're not going to have as much room as you think. Like over in the revenue and finance, I think if we're going to keep the court there, we're going to end up encroaching over there. So we're not going to have as much space as we think.
Maureen, with a metal detector, do we need the equipment that you walk through, or can we have an officer do the wand?
It's both.
Both.
Oh, you have to have both.
Because if they light up when they come through the screen, then they have to wand them.
Okay.
So that takes up some space, so.
Now, doesn't Longport just have the officer, or no?
No, they have both.
They have both.
They have
Okay.
both.
Yeah, so everybody's looking to grab a piece of the first floor of City Hall, but.
Good point.
Okay.
Our space is shrinking quickly. Anybody else? Rich?
At the invitation of the library board, I met with Jim, the librarian today, Jim Cahill, and the president of the library board, and discussed this issue at length with them. We talked about the potential for both of these buildings, the Washington Avenue building and this building. And prior to me saying what they said, I want to say that I agree with Ed and Maureen, and a number of us have been talking for a long time about potential uses. That is that the first floor there has, we're going to need a lot of that space for a new elevator shaft, new restrooms, and as Ed said, there's not going to be as much space left as people think. In addition, because of the water concerns, if we're going to use for historic purposes, it really should be the second floor. And I discussed that with the library board today. They're very interested in the second floor. They're a portion of the second floor of that building for displaying
Rich, just to
library.
clarify, the second floor here or City Hall?
Washington Avenue.
Okay.
Now, they are also interested here in some space on the second floor, which makes some sense to me as well. First of all, we don't know how much it's going to cost still really yet until we have an experience of how much to operate this building. And by bringing the library in to use some of that space on the second floor, I think it could be advantageous financially for the community. They're interested in the space that's the old library space on the second floor for office space, and they're interested in it for storage purposes as well. And they may be interested in at least one classroom for programmatic purposes, which I think fits into the long run with some of the other ideas that a number of us have talked about here with regard to this space that we're sitting in right now. If we're going to build new meeting space back in the historic center of our community, which many of us favor, that is restoring the meeting room for commission and planning board and other purposes, including the court, it's going to free up space here that could be used much better than occasionally for a meeting. Recreational programming, some senior citizen activity to continue to keep more people using this building is of interest to many of us, including our recreation department. They'd like to keep some presence in the Ross School, but frankly, them moving over here and their main facility, the main offices, would be advantageous to have them among us as well and not separated on the third floor at Ross. And the programs that could be operated in here, we can all imagine, can be quite extensive. We have a kitchen facility which someday can be used. So I think we have to use how to use the space wisely. The long and the short of it is the library has, which I did not know, has officially absorbed the Historic Society as part of the library. I knew there was talk in that direction, but I didn't realize that it has come to pass. And so when we speak of what the Historic Society wants or the Historic Association wants, we're really talking now to the library. They are managing that whole operation, and they have now a responsibility not only to store the artifacts that are here, but to begin to communicate with the public and display those items. So as much as we would like to plan for them, I think it's extremely important that we continue a dialogue with the library now to be able to work with them, not only for the purposes of their needs, but also for financial purposes. And lastly on that, I think we have a small opportunity, especially if we were to rebuild a section on the second floor for the display of the artifacts, to be able to use funding from FEMA that's potentially available to us to replace the building, the space that was in the building next door. FEMA's fine with us taking down that building. Ultimately, we have to get permission, a formal permission, but we're also eligible to, if we take that down, to replace that square footage in a way that would make sense. So we don't know the financial details, but there could be some money made available to be able to renovate a portion of the second floor for that purpose. And they have the bricks that are there that they want to preserve, and I want to make sure that everybody understands that before we take that building down, there's historic bricks there that they have to be taken up and stored, and they could be reset on that general property. And I think that that keeps the continuity there too. So they're just ideas that have been thrown out. This is the kind of meeting you wanted to have, but I think the more we can disclose of discussions that we've had,
Absolutely,
I think is
Rich,
exceptional.
the more the merrier.
Rich, are they open to second floor space here, or are they pretty adamant about being over at City Hall? I mean, well, I first thought that would be the ideal place for them, honestly, personally, because that's a historical building. But then I thought if visitorship was a concern, we have space upstairs and we've got the public presence. I thought they would have better visitorship, so.
I think they're open. We didn't close any doors today, but what I asked them to do is to send a communication to us that I can distribute to you so that they're on record of kind of giving their views in a more formalized way initially. And then, obviously, we're still on the ground floor. They can be part of a continuing discussion.
Right, I'm also concerned about the space shrinking too, as we were discussing a few minutes earlier, and whether they have enough space for what they need to display.
They're all good points, but I think this is you know, we have an open discussion, and I
Right.
think that's good for the community.
Just one more comment on that. There's a lot more, and I didn't really realize this till I went to the Ventnor, to these meetings about the flood maps and paid a visit to Ventnor's Historical Society, which is one large open space. It was very easy to view. They had a lot of stuff displayed. And I think that, and the fact that it's the whole day, 8 hours or however long that library's open, that facility's open, you can go in there. I think that lends a little bit more to this structure where the building is manned. Now, the question becomes, will they have someone to staff that or not, or they'd have to get volunteers or whatever, but it does then open the opportunity up on that second floor to give the fire department some additional space that they need, which they really didn't get. You know, the fire station looks great. The extra space would be greatly appreciated, I'm sure, by the fire department. So that's just my commentary.
Thank you, Ed. All right, we're going to bring this section to a close. I'm glad that we started this dialogue today. As you all can tell, there's a lot of opinions and a lot of work to be done. And you and the public will have a chance to comment. If you have any ideas or anything, you can certainly make them available to us in writing or anytime at all during the week. We're going to do department reports. We're going to start with Mr. Galantino today.
Well, we're busy, very busy with the construction department. We waived a number of fees. We took in $48,000 last month in fees for permits, so you can just imagine how busy our department is. I just don't like to keep saying we're busy because we're busy, right, Ed? We've had a lot of talk about the flood map. I think Scott's going to bring us up on the ordinance change. You're going to do that today, Scott?
Yes.
We have another meeting next week, Thursday, 10:30 in Ventnor, all about the advisory base flood elevation maps with Stuart Farrell. We're getting more information every day about the flood maps. My phone line's open if anybody in the audience needs some help with questions. So give me a call. Anything you need?
Thank you, Jim. Chief?
That's okay. Ken Mosca from Atlantic City Electric contacted me this afternoon to advise me that they're going to be doing emergency repair work on the Margate Bridge Road on those poles. Anybody's traveled down the road, all the poles are leaning. They're going to try to fix them all in one night. They're hoping there's no outages as a result of their work. So traffic may be an issue tonight, but I don't foresee it after 11 o'clock. They're going to start at 11 o'clock. But if the power goes out, you'll know why. Other than that, we're doing good.
Thank you, Chief. Maureen?
No, we're just getting ready, looking at our inventory and stuff, getting ready for the summer, and just hoping spring comes soon.
I know. We
Tired
deserve it.
of
We
this.
deserve it.
Yeah, we do. That's it.
Fred? Do you know how to work the microphone?
No.
Do we?
Just to piggyback on what the chief said, is it worth it for us to do an automated phone blast when we get more information to let everybody know what's happening? Something to think about. When's it happening?
Tonight.
Oh.
Tonight, Fred.
Never mind.
Fred, next time. Roger?
Good thought.
You're okay.
I'm good.
Tom? Scott? Do you have anything?
A lot of developments going on, Mayor, with regard to the flood map, or the flood ordinance. We're working on that. As you know, our consultant, Dr. Stuart Farrell, has been to Trenton and had a number of sessions with the New Jersey Senate. Some of their subcommittees have questioned him, and he's advocated our position and the position of the shore communities. As the picture gets a little bit clearer, it seems as though this V zone will be reduced. We would like to see it eliminated, at least as far as Margate the Back Bay area, and all the city really, if it qualifies. We are moving forward with our flood ordinance as well. As you are aware, I believe everybody's aware, the state has directed us and forwarded us a model ordinance to have us replace our current flood prevention ordinance. There are a lot of questions about this, though. We're trying to move cautiously. Each town has different standards that it wants to implement. We're trying to coordinate with Longport and Ventnor so that we're basically the same. For instance, what is substantial damage? Is it 50%? Is it 40%? Is it fair market value? Is it assessed value of the building? There's a lot of these technical questions. We just had a meeting today with Jimmy Galantino and Ed and the mayor and whatnot. So we're moving forward on that. So there's a positive with regard to the flood maps. Positive. It looks pretty certain there's going to be some revisions to our favor. We have the flood prevention ordinance about 95% done, although, and in discussions with the city administrator, and I'm aware of this as well, I don't know how much of in a hurry we'll want to be to implement that ordinance. There was a May 1 deadline, possibly jeopardy to some of the monies that could come to us, but there are some negative drawbacks as well. I'm not really certain what the correct way to go, and again, it will be a consensus from most of the shore communities as to what we do with that flood prevention ordinance. A couple other issues, we've moved forward a little bit on that Rumson and the beach aspect, where the property owner wants to swap that strip of land for replacement of a bulkhead. I've communicated that to their attorney, given him a rough idea. He's going to get back to me on that. You'll recall it was approximately, how many feet, Eddie? About 200 foot of bulkhead? It's about 200 foot, I know. Approximately 200 foot of bulkhead, and a strip of land that's approximately 7 feet wide by 80 feet long. So it'd be nice if we could get a street end out of that and a side bulkhead in exchange possibly for a piece of property that city doesn't use, doesn't have access really, and the adjoining property owner apparently has used it forever. A couple other issues. I know we have another issue coming up at our next meeting. I'll go into that at that time. Rather serious matter. That's all I have for now, Mayor.
Thank you, Scott. Lisa?
I don't have anything to report.
Frank?
Yeah, the remediation people are moving along. They were in Public Works, they have to come back. They were also in the carpenter shop, they have to come back to that shop. Monday, they're going to be closing down our mechanic shop, but we're making arrangements where we can do light mechanical work and checking vehicles in another spot. We'll let everybody know probably by tomorrow afternoon. We've been working up at the pavilion. The pavilion needed a lot of attention from the storm. We rehabbed the playground. The bocce courts and everything are back into shape. We've moved tons of sand off them. We cleaned the whole area. We had to move the concrete behind the pavilion because the ocean damaged it. But everything came around, and the property's starting to look real good. We're also been out the past couple of weeks fixing water leaks. We had a few of them around town. We have our sweepers back out on the street, and we are trying to catch up. Last night's storm is continuing still now because the ocean is very high right now, and we will be back down there again tomorrow morning getting the water and sand off the beaches. Tomorrow there'll be a survey boat from the DEP out in our waters back here on the Back Bay, the thoroughfare, and they'll be looking for debris. They're doing a survey back there with sonar, and what they're looking for is big pieces of storm debris, and they will be mapping the bottom of our back bays. And I
Frank,
think
will they be
that's-
going down the lagoons too? Because there's a lot of debris floating around the
You know,
lagoons stuck.
I think
Yeah.
that this whole zone is definitely going to be looked at, and you know, they were looking for certain spots, and I believe it is where people live, and they're also looking on the marshlands too. So
Yeah, it
you
gets
know,
stuck there.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they come up with. That's all I have.
May I ask a question?
Certainly.
Are they going to look at aspects of the bottom, such as abandoned traps, crab traps, by chance?
Yeah, they're definitely looking for debris like that. They're looking for sunken boats. They're looking actually for where sandbars are starting to form, where they haven't been before. And they're going to come up with a study, and they're doing the whole state.
Well, I know there was a thing about 2 years ago in Chesapeake Bay where they used sonar equipment like you're talking about. In fact, as I have the article, where they swept the bay clean of crab traps. And believe it or not, over the decades that there were crab traps and commercial crabbers, there are hundreds of these traps down there that are death traps for crabs, but their lines are broken, they can't bring them up. And they have to have fairly heavy-duty equipment, grappling hooks and whatnot, to pull those up. And I would very much urge that they do that. I'd even volunteer time. I'd even go out in my own boat and help them, because I know there's a lot of traps down there.
I know that they told me that after they get done surveying, I mean, even if they see a car, a part of a bridge, any big debris, all the way down to small debris, that's what they're looking for.
That's great, and we'll have access to that?
I believe they're going to give us a
They actually
report on
take
it.
pictures of it, and they'll show you.
Yep.
And they'll give you the quadrant that that structure is in.
Yep.
And again, it wipes out shell fisheries, it wipes out crabs.
And some of
For
us.
example, I mean,
I was going to say, some of us as boulders know where there are some sunken boats.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, I could
there's-
tell you at one spot, and I'm not that experienced, I'm sure you guys could.
there's couple sunken boats that I'm aware of. So that's great news. I'm glad to hear that. I had no idea they would do that.
Yep.
Frank, you have anything else?
No, that's all.
Tony, do you have anything else?
Yeah, just one reminder, this weekend, Saturday night, we spring forward on the clocks, and the fire department always uses that as a reminder that when you change your clock, change the battery in your smoke detectors. We are available to the residents and anyone here, 822-5562, and if you need assistance in doing that, we're glad to do it. And it's a good thing to do at least twice a year. So, just a reminder.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ed, do you have anything?
Just real quick, my report, I handed a copy out to everyone. We're going to advertise, I think on the agenda, we're asking for authorization to go out to bid for the road program. We're going to put that in the paper on the 20th, accept the bids on the 2nd. Most likely what'll happen, the contractor will start to do some pipe work, and then we'll cut them off generally the first week of June. We shut them down for the summer season. They'll come back in the fall and continue. Beach bulkheads, FEMA has told me there's a new individual that's involved now with the beach and the bulkheads. I'm waiting for that individual to contact me because we do have the two that we're repairing, the emergency repairs. And I spoke to Ken Mosca from Atlantic Electric earlier in the week. Had the storm not occurred, the light poles on those two streets would be gone already, and our contractor could get done. He's saying possibly next week they'll pull the light poles, and then Coastal can get in there and get those bulkheads done. In the meantime, we do have another one that was damaged from the storm that is in our ordinance, but I don't want to do anything until FEMA tells us it's okay to move forward on getting that, replacing that. It's on Sumner Avenue. The return on Sumner is in bad shape. It's leaning. It's very low, and we did request funding on that. The Gladstone Avenue water tank is due for its inspection, as well as the Benson Avenue's anniversary inspection since it was last painted. So we're scheduling that. The remediation that Frank spoke of, all the buildings are moving along. The old municipal building, old City Hall, is done. I believe the senior pavilion, the Bloomberg Pavilion, rather, that's complete. Frank's buildings he reported on, but we will have to deal with now the restoration of those buildings, replacing the sheetrock, the insulation, whatever was taken out as part of the remediation. So we're going to have to look at that as sooner than later, how we're going to accomplish that. State aid, or the 2011/12, which was Amherst from Quincy to Vendome, has been done. They have to come back and stripe, there's a few little places that I want them to fix, some concrete curb. The beach bulkhead access project is complete. We had 3 installed this year. We're putting in an application for, and there's, the announcement of the application process was rather short, so I put an application together. I looked at the map and jumped around like we usually do, and it pretty much puts us Frontenac Avenue is probably the next one that we need to do. We do have funding in place, I believe, for Iroquois. That was the 2012 funding. So we'll look at, if we get the 13 funding, we can continue on our normal process. We're not locked into Frontenac, that's where I'm applying for. If something better comes up, they give us latitude in resubmitting the application after it's been awarded. So, let's see, well number 8, we have on the agenda to award the rehab of well number 8. Because of the time sensitivity, we scheduled a pre-construction meeting for that for tomorrow. We need to see, I believe the contracts are here in City Hall. I need the mayor to sign them this evening, please, so that we can hand them to the contractor tomorrow and give them the notice to proceed. Because we need to get that well moving, okay? And street opening permits have officially been turned over to the city project manager. So what I've done is I'll give you a summary list of, I think we processed 43 to that point to the transition. And we still will, obviously, I'm in constant contact with Roger and we can talk about them at any point. And I think that's, I think that's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you, Ed.
I have a question for Ed.
Can I ask you a question, Ed?
Yes. Hold on.
Okay, there it goes. Ed, the 2 rooms here that need remediation, do you know the status of them, or did I miss that? Did you talk about that, the 2 rooms here?
Yes, I have the signed contracts in my briefcase. We will we'll send them to the contractor tomorrow. We'll schedule a little bit, like a real quick pre-con meeting and coordinate with Frank so that we can get that moving.
Absolutely, and just let everybody know, because last weekend I got a call at home on a Saturday night, I think it was from the police department, that the door going out of one of those rooms was left open. I don't know if contractor was looking at something or I don't know what it was. Could be anybody. But when we're doing that project, I want to make sure that we stay on top of things like that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So you think that project's going to start in the next couple of weeks, I hope? Or, okay,
I'm hoping it starts next week.
okay.
Okay. Rich?
I had a question for Ed.
I'm sorry, Mark.
Ed, did we decide to survey the bay block bulkhead heights?
Yes, we had a meeting, we talked about that. The way we're going to do is I have one surveyor with a GPS probe. I'm going to go out with him. I'm trying to get that scheduled on Tuesday of next week, probably 2 days, 3 days, depending on how easy it is to get access to the properties. But I want that done by the end of next week so I can submit that data electronically to Stu Farrell, who will then send it to the mapping people.
Perfect, thank you.
We'll try it. Rich?
I want to report on 3 things that are on the 5 o'clock agenda tonight. The first is the operating budget, the 2013 operating budget. I will have a summary available to the public right after the meeting, assuming the commission adopts that budget. As soon as they adopt it, I'll have a one-page summary available, and then if they do adopt it, the budget will be published according to law in the newspaper. There'll be a electronic copy sent to the clerk's office right after the meeting so that they have it on file. As an introduction to that, those that were here last meeting remember that we've been going through a refinancing project for the last 8 months, and Lisa and Tom and our professionals have worked on that, and in the process of going through that and finalizing it, we saved about $430,000 in prior bonds that were refinanced. In order to do that, one of the steps that had to be taken was to seek from Standard & Poor's, the rating agency, a report so that the purchasers of those bonds would have some understanding of the finances in Margate. And Standard & Poor's Rating Services assigned an A- long-term rating to Margate for these obligations. And that helped us achieve that $430,000 result. This is the same rating as we've had. It's not an increase, but it's certainly not a decrease. And in these economic times, while we were looking for an increase, we were pleased to be able to have our rating affirmed. So as part of that, they issue a letter, and I'm going to just read excerpts from that letter. It says that Margate has an extremely strong market value per capita, reflecting the presence of high-value homes and strong reserves despite fund balance reductions in the past several recent fiscal years. Despite the losses related to Sandy, the city's assessed value will still increase slightly for fiscal 2013 to $3.84 billion. Market value declined a slight 1.7%. That's overall market value in the city, which is still $626,294 per capita, a level we consider, that is Standard & Poor's considers, extremely strong. When considering the peak summer population, the per capita market value is still, in our opinion, extremely strong at roughly $192,000. Due to its residential nature, the tax exhibits little concentration, which is a good thing. That means we're not dependent on one or two or three big taxpayers, but it's spread out through the entire community. The top 10 taxpayers in the community pay just 1.2% of the overall tax. The city's financial position remains strong. Outlook for the future. The stable outlook reflects Standard & Poor's opinion of Margate's diverse tax base and very strong wealth and incomes. While the long-term economic effects of Sandy remain unknown, we expect the city to absorb the storm-related cleanup costs effectively due to the significant amount of reimbursement it will receive for the damages. We also expect the city will maintain its strong reserve position due to its conservative budgeting practices and willingness to raise revenues to maintain balanced operations. Due to these factors, we do not anticipate changing the rating within the two-year period horizon. I wanted to report that to you because we paid for it. It is the report. It is the city's report, the people's report, but it does reflect historically on the financial operation of this community over the last number of years. Now, what does that mean going forward? What we're asking tonight is for the commission to adopt an operating budget, and the summary of which I'm going to announce in a few seconds. But before I do, I want to thank the department heads and Lisa for working together so hard, and then Tom and Maury as Director of Finance for meeting and revising and modifying and putting the pressure on all of us to maintain a stable tax rate. And the bottom line for this budget is we as a staff and the Finance Office and Commissioner of Finance are presenting to the full commission, and with their concurrence in their departments, a budget that maintains a stable tax rate in Margate for 2013. The budget dollar change is $845,000. $750,000 of that is for emergency purposes through the storm, Sandy. There's income and expenditures for that, balancing that out, income being anticipated through reimbursements through FEMA and insurance. We're following the law on how that is to be done, but it does elevate the dollar amount of the budget, almost the entire dollar amount that's elevated. 750 out of the 845 is attributable directly to the storm. Other increases in which is the difference between 750 and 845 of 95,000. 45,000 of that 95 is salaries and wages. The salary and wage budget is up about 1/3% entirely for the whole city, and I thank the department heads for managing their resources and presenting budgets that allowed us to do that. As I said, the major increase, actually 788,000, 750 is FEMA, but its total is 788, is all the statutory and deferred charges and requirements by law that we increase the budget. So essentially, the message from me and from finance office and the clerk's office and the commissioner of finance is that we have a stable budget. The revenues are essentially stable, and the expenditures are extensively are stable. The good news on top of that, though, is we do use surplus as a revenue each year in municipal budgeting. And this, I think, I hate to say it in some ways, is my 42nd municipal budget. That's the way it's been done since I started, and that's the way it's going to continue to be done in New Jersey. They require a balanced budget. They require you to maintain a surplus and to reappropriate part of that surplus. The good news is we now start the year with this, using this, even after we use the surplus, of $865,000 after we appropriate this $2.3 million in surplus. That's our cash position, essentially. Last year was $655,000, so we're $210,000 better this year than we were last year at this time, even with the storm. So I think that bodes well going into the future, because there's no sense of you doing more than one of these budgets to not look toward the future. There are problems potentially in the future. We all know that with the storm-related effects that we talk about with ordinances and raising homes and the real estate base and all the other things that we all know and that we're all living with individually. But we're trying to hedge toward that direction, and I think we're doing it and maintaining a stable tax base at the same time. The local purpose tax this year is $21,053,557. It's all on this sheet that I'll have copies for you. That's up $57,000 from last year, which is 0.25%. But the revenue, the assessed value of the property is up marginally as well, which allows us to actually have a technical tax decrease of, which is minimal, and I point that out, it is minimal, but it's technically a decrease, and I'd like to say stable for practical purposes. There should be nobody who didn't have a change in assessment that will see any increase in taxes for municipal purposes in 2013. So with that said, and the thank yous to everybody at this table and the hard work that didn't just take place in the last 60 days, but really last year and the years before because of conservative budgeting, I think I'm proud to be able to present this budget, and hopefully the three commissioners will introduce it. There's plenty of time for the public to see it. There'll be a public hearing, and I believe that's going to be scheduled. It's our first meeting in April, and I think that's April 2nd.
Rich, thank you very much for your efforts, too. We appreciate it. Oops.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your efforts, too. We appreciate it.
Thank you. The second item that's on the agenda is, I wouldn't mention, take the time to mention, other than the fact that it's been mentioned for almost since the first day that I came here, and that is concerned by some members of the public with regard to our recreational basketball camp program. And I want to be able to report to the public that we have all done what we said we were going to do. We worked out the problem for last year, and then we developed, through the help of our recreation office and through the clerk's office, our purchasing office, a comprehensive 10-page set of specifications. We went out to bid for the basketball camp a few weeks ago. I have a copy of the specifications if anybody should want to see them. They've been available, they were advertised, but it's for a basketball camp for boys and girls aged 6 through 16 between July 1st and August 22nd. The camp shall have 8 individually themed weeks focusing on fundamentals of the game. Basketball camp for boys and girls 6 through 16 years old should include minimum of 12 hours of instruction over 4 days, 3 hours per day. The camp director had to submit a resume of qualifications, had to be experienced in running basketball camps. The director had to have a bachelor's degree and a minimum of 3 years coaching and 4 years prior basketball camp experience. The rest of his staff had to submit, her staff had to submit resumes and had qualification requirements. All personnel were to be required to have background checks, which is extremely important. They have to submit those they have to submit their full resumes to our recreation director. There should be staff members at least one staff member has to be certified American Red Cross, Basic First Aid, and other Red Cross and American Heart Association, CPR. Names and certificates had to be submitted at the time of proposal, and so forth. A deposit had to be made at the time of the bid, and the minimum bid was $3,000 to pay to the city. The bidder paid $3,100, and I just think that it's a very comprehensive approach to the concern that was raised a year ago, and I just wanted to report that publicly prior to the vote of the commission. Lastly, I've been reporting relative to labor negotiations, and over an extensive period of time, we've worked with the Margate City Lifeguards Association. It's been very cooperative, it's been very open, and although extensive. And one of the reasons why it took a little bit longer is because we had a problem dealing with prior years because there's been no contract for 2 years. These people have worked without a contract for 2 years in good faith. The last contract expired at the end of 2010. I hope we don't go through those kinds of situations in the future. So we had to figure out a way in order to address the years 2011 and 12 in a legal manner. I'm going to read a brief letter like I did for the fire so that there's no misunderstanding, and can make this letter available to anyone who wishes. I'm pleased to report that we have completed a lengthy but productive set of negotiations with the Margate City Lifeguards Association for a new labor agreement for the period of January 1, 2011 through December 31st, 2014. The process was made more complicated by the fact that few negotiations took place in 2011 or early 2012. Further, the Beach Patrol has been slowly integrated into the fire department for year-round safety, joint training, and management efficiency purposes. While prolonged, the process was professional, and the resulting contract is fair and beneficial to the members and to the citizens of Margate. The main features of the agreement are these. For 2011 and 2012 combined, there is a payment to be made not to exceed $31,230 total for increments to be given to Beach Patrol employees based upon a formula devised by the Margate City Lifeguards Association. This formula relates to the previous rate of pay and the days worked by each member during these 2 seasons. The amount provided for in the contract is approximately 1.5% per year of the previously budgeted salaries and wages for those years. For 2013 and 2014, there is a new salary guide in place. This guide does not increase in 2014. It is the same guide. Members will be placed on the new guide in 2013, providing for a minimum 2% raise with no new cost of living adjustment for 2014. The new wage guide provides for much more moderate increases for all members as they progress in years on the beach patrol. Members will not advance in pay automatically for each year they serve. For example, a third-year guard will make the same rate of pay as a second-year guard, and a ninth-year guard will make the same rate of pay as an eighth-year guard. It is projected that the city will save in excess of $1,400 for each new guard hired in 2013 and beyond over a 15-year period with the new guide. There is a temporary experimental buyout provision for members with 15 years or more service for years 2013 and 14, only for those years only, whereby guards eligible may petition for buyout of up to 3 years to allow for early retirement. If approved, this could save the city's salary by replacing very senior guards with less senior guards at lower rates of pay. Such an arrangement would be approved by the Lifeguard Pension Commission. Both parties understand the importance of public safety with ocean bathing. Therefore, while the city still retains the right to establish the length of the beach season, it is the intent of the City of Margate during the remaining term of this agreement to establish an 11-week swimming season beginning in mid-June. This is a recognition of the problem we have every year in the early season and the late season of being able to fund and adequately plan for and cover the safety of the beach. While this labor agreement stands on its own, I strongly recommend that the Commissioners reestablish the Lifeguard Pension Commission as provided for in Ordinance 1987-16 to perform the functions assigned to it. With a seasoned lifeguard force, the number of persons retiring over the next several years may be considerable. Therefore, it is my opinion that the newly reestablished Pension Commission should be required to assess the funding for adequately compensating retirees according to the established pension plan and report back to the Chief Financial Officer and to the Commissioners by November 1st, 2013. I wish to thank Chief Financial Officer Lisa McLaughlin and Fire Chief Anthony Tabasso for their assistance, and to acknowledge Lifeguards Brian Hiltner, Margate Lifeguards Association President, for his considerable work in successfully reaching the terms of this agreement. A resolution is scheduled for later tonight, and I recommend your approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Maury, do you have anything?
Yeah, I have a couple of things. I want to thank Rich for his great job on the lifeguard contract, and I would strongly hope that you and Brenda support that. Rich and Lisa and Tom for their outstanding work on the budget. I want to thank, and he's not here, Ken Mosca and the people at Atlantic Electric for the work that they did in getting us back up and running yesterday. It was really nice that they came up with an estimate of time when they were going to have our power back, and they were pretty close to it. So personally, the many calls that I got to my cell phone, I was able to give the people that called an idea of when power might be back. The good news is most of them were sleeping at 2:20 in this morning when it did come back. And finally, Ed, for the work that he did laying out this fence. I think that we should take the next step, if you and Brenda agree, that we put together specifications and see if we can get a price for what it would cost to do that. If you're okay, I like the layout. I think it'll work. If we are going to allow parking in that lot, I think we should move forward with this, at least to get specifications and a price.
I'm okay with that. I think we should move forward.
I certainly approve parking on the thing. Move forward with that.
So you'll work with Tom to try and get us a specification for bid? Okay. Okay. And so you'll make recommendations for what that fence is going to look like as well, whether it's going to be chain link or, okay. Fine. All right, great. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Brenda?
Thank you, Commissioner Blumberg, Rich, Lisa and Tom for your efforts with the budget. And I want to thank the Public Works Department for your preparedness for this the recent storm. I wondered if Fred, I think Mayor Becker spoke with the electric company yesterday afternoon and was informed that we should all be back on in phases by midnight. And that was really helpful to know. I put it out on Facebook, and I know it was put out on our Margate official site by Joy Cantor, thank you. But I wonder if we also could send it out, if Fred could send it out by email or maybe to the cell phones that we have, just, to get, if an occasion like this were to happen again, if we could just, let more people know about it. And I want to say thank you to Lisa McLaughlin for handling all the extra FEMA responsibilities and paperwork associated with Sandy on top of her own responsibilities. I've learned recently the other municipalities have actually brought in outside consultants to handle this paperwork, and we've done it all on ourselves. Well, not we, but Lisa, so thank you. On another note, I think Commissioner Blumberg and Mayor Becker and I, all three of us, received the third grader brochure about do not feed the seagulls our food, let them hunt their own, blah, blah, blah. It's adorable. So I've asked Mrs. Cuevas to deliver a brochure, or to deliver a box of those brochures to Bill Walsh, who will be in charge of selling our beach badges. So we will distribute those brochures with our beach badge sales this year. At our last meeting, Sharon Simon had directed some questions to me personally regarding an ad that was placed in the Current a couple of weeks ago. Though I don't agree with anything, though I do not disagree with anything that was in the ad, nor do I believe any of it to be untrue, I think you need to direct your questions to those residents who wrote the letter, not me. I believe we're in this life to help each other through, not to see each other through each other, and I believe that often the latter is the truth, which is the shame. Also, earlier today, on a different note, Chief of Police, the Chief of Fire, Public Works Director, the Business Administrator, and myself all met with Margie Reel of the Margate Mothers Association regarding our fireworks presentation for this year. And if all goes planned, we'll save the city money and offer a sea-based fireworks display versus a beach display, which promises to be grander and more spectacular than ever for our 10-year anniversary of Margate Mothers Fireworks. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. I had prepared some comments, most of which have been covered. They're basically budget comments, but I'd like to, well, I'll probably do that. But regarding the electric company, which has been brought up before, the electric company has always been in contact with us. In a bad situation where we've all lost power, they have kept us aware of what's going on. And I think I've mentioned this a couple months ago before. They have a capital project probably beginning in the next 6 months to replace the entire Marvin's Garden substation. It's old, it's decrepit. Yesterday, they lost the 2 main feeds to Marvin Gardens substation. That's the bad news. The good news is that the entire substation will be replaced, and in the future, after it is replaced, if we get a power goes down as it did yesterday, it will automatically switch to other sources, and it should alleviate all of these power outages. So kudos to them. They've, number one, been in contact with us all the time, and they do have plans. I've already signed the papers for that. It will get done. Now, getting back to budget, I want to thank all of you, Rich, Lisa, Leon Costello, and all the department heads. You've all worked hard, come up with a great budget. I personally have always felt that there was a very critical year budget-wise for the city. I think this is the year that Margate can finally start controlling its government. I think we have a very good budget. It's legitimate. Very small increases, no tax increase, and thank all of you who worked so hard to get us there. Is there any public comment, excuse me, on the items that were discussed here today?
Sewell 22 West Drive, items discussed today by the city administrator claiming revenues are stable. I would like to refer the city administrator to the February 27th editorial in the Atlantic City Press, wherein Steve Marshall of Wealth Management, who I dare say has more savvy and acumen in investing than anybody at this horseshoe table, and I'll briefly give a portion of his statement. Margate, like so many other towns up and down the Jersey coast, is grappling with the specter of real estate values dropping significantly due to the Federal Emergency Management Agency's remapping of the flood zones. Real estate prices could depreciate by 25%, according to some estimates, as flood insurance premiums go from, say, $1,000 per year to more than $20,000 per year. Town hall meetings are filled with citizens demanding their elected officials act preemptively rather than be at the mercy of the federal government's broad brush flood rules. If the worst of what is being discussed is truly enacted, it is not unreasonable to expect that many homeowners would literally have to walk away from their homes, priced out, because flood insurance has risen astronomically. And a second point goes to the city engineer. Edward, could you briefly run past us that scenario of the new process by which you, as city engineer, turn certain portions of your duties over to a project manager for whom there is no civil service listing? Could you elucidate briefly for myself and others?
To the front here, please.
Well, Mayor, it's a legitimate question. You said things that were raised.
Yes, I did.
Well, then would you ask
It's
your
public
city?
comment. It is not a question and
Ask
answer
your
period.
sister, ask your,
My sister? She's not here. She's in Baltimore.
ask your city engineer the question that I put forth.
You can
What
ask-
is that process?
You can ask him in writing, John.
I'm not asking writing, it's right here. This is what this portion is for, to have an understanding of how this government functions, Mayor, and I think it's a legitimate question, and it should be addressed and answered.
That's
If we have transparency, Mayor,
Yes, we
which
do.
you seem to come up short time and time again on.
John, you have 30 seconds, and I'm.
Well, the
and
30
I'm trying not
seconds
to be
is-
You dropped something, John.
Well, I'm sure it's important and pertinent,
I know.
but the bottom line, Mayor, is that we're entitled to know how this city functions and whether it functions within the laws, statutes, and ordinances. And that's the duty of the city solicitor, hopefully, to point out that you can't be above the law and you can't ignore the laws and ordinances and statutes of this fine state.
Thank you.
Thank you,
John.
Mayor.
Anyone else care to talk?
Sharon Simon, 424 North Thurlow Avenue. The conversation about Union Avenue should have started the day the school district closed Union Avenue School. It certainly should have started before a building department referendum. It certainly should have started before or along with Commissioner Tobby's idea to tear down Union Avenue School and to sell the property. Unfortunately, it still wasn't discussed after the referendum was defeated, the building department was defeated. It still wasn't discussed after the business administrator suggested that we do a study regardless of whether the building department referendum ordinance passed. It took Sandy, it took a disaster to force the mayor and Commissioner Tobby to do this study. Had you done these conversations, had you had these studies done, we would be a lot better off right now. What needs to take place and should have taken place before is how do we use both spaces, keeping in mind that there is rentable income potential in this building. Yes, we should look at all the departments and see what best suits our needs, keeping in mind that if we can have something there and free up space here that we could rent out and help offset the operating costs of this building, it should be done. What's going to happen with the Historical Society building property? There's talk before about making it a parking lot. We could charge for that in the summer and the weekends. Another way to bring in some revenue. As far as Commissioner Tobey's, oh, one more thing. The mayor in the paper keeps saying, we don't know if we're staying in Union Avenue. We already look like idiot fools. Please stop saying that.
30
People say to
seconds,
me
Sharon.
every day, why is he still saying that? As far as meetings go, as far as Commissioner Tobey's comments, you're very quick to respond to ridiculous comments like that about an ad that could potentially lead to a defamation of character
15,
complaint,
Sharon.
which now you have openly, publicly involved yourself, which means involved the city. And lastly, 4 o'clock meetings, a lot to discuss, a lot of public comment needs to be made. So these meetings often run past 5 o'clock. So I am suggesting, out of respect for the people who come here at 5 o'clock, want to participate, that the 4 o'clock meeting go from 4 to 5:30, and we start the public meeting, the general meeting, at 5:30. That will allow people
Your
who
time's
have to
up,
work,
Sharon.
I know,
Thank you.
Mayor, have to work at 5 o'clock, that can then
Sharon, your time's up.
can make it by 5:30.
Thank you very much. I like that little bell. That's so cool.
You didn't do that with your watch, did you?
I didn't know you could do that.
Oh, you like that, huh?
Careful or you get the bell.
Stephen Altman, 9003 Amherst Avenue, Margate, and I'm actually there as of last night, so I came home to
Way
an
to go,
electrical
Steve.
outlet. Thank you.
I
compliment-
thought you would move to the beach block, but
Only for the parking. Thank you. Actually, Mr. Mayor, I thank you very much for enlightening me about storm outage time estimates. Also, Mr. Blumberg and Mrs. Taube, for your comments about Atlantic City Electric and these same subjects. I called the police department and asked if they had some estimate, and the young lady who answered me had no idea and was unable to direct me where to call next, and I never thought to call you personally. That wouldn't be my first choice. If we do have some formal mechanism developed, it should probably be added to the calendar in my thought process, because I really didn't know where to turn to get that estimate. And as you all know, I talk about my mom, but she requires oxygen at night when she sleeps, and that requires electricity. So if there were one central place or one central telephone number to get information, that would be, I think, an enormous help for everybody. And that was no criticism of the police department, believe me, sir. And it's good to know that the substation is going to be repaired, because my next comment was about the fact that major parts of Ocean City didn't lose power last night. And I guess the explanation is the Marvin Gardens substation. As you all know, I am very proud to have been on the Commission's advisory committee, as there was a previous advisory committee. We all came to the same conclusion, more than 30-odd citizens, that the fire department probably should have been moved, or we all agreed that it should have been moved to Jerome and Amherst Avenue. I still believe that, in spite of all the funds that have been spent to renovate the fire station at Washington Avenue. I really think that amongst yourselves and the wonderful staffs that you have, going forward, again, with storm surges as a possibility, that we ought probably to look at a unified fire station at some point in the future. I don't expect that to be a front burner issue, but I do really believe that that's an issue that we all might consider.
30 seconds, Steve.
That's
I'm so-
okay. I'll give the 30 seconds to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve?
Any other public comment?
I don't usually try to interrupt the public comments, but I believe, and we can verify this, that there should be a central electric company number that you can call and just put your address in, and they give you a estimated time anytime your own line is out. And that's while the city should augment that, I want to tell you that there is such a number. I did do that, sir, and what they did was they said they would call you back if you put in your telephone number when your service has been restored, which they did it for in the morning. But to find out an estimate of time recovered,
I got it.
Obviously, many of you had a better idea than what we were being given by following procedure. So I do urge.
I think we can do a better job next time in communicating, and I thank you for bringing that to our attention. We'll make sure that we share with the police department what we know so that your dispatch can answer the questions properly.
We'll take care of that.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Hi, Nate Humphreys, 406 North Gladstone Avenue. I would like to compliment Fred for the speaker systems that he put in here, and I wish you guys would talk into the microphones so we can hear it in the audience.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other public comment? Is there a motion to close public comment?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Taube?
Yes,
Is there a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I'll make the motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Taube?
Yes.
We'll take a very short break and do our regular meeting.